Hello and welcome to another episode of Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
I'm Terry.
So our show is it's kind of a personal journey. What we like to do is share my journey. Terry is my support. I take all the credit for the fatty part of this, but she works diligently trying to, help keep me on track with the eating, getting out of my chair and going and exercising. And with COVID and working from home, it's become much more easier to be sedentary, and posted a new video yesterday, and we're going to try to post more little video clips of me being out, at the gym yesterday. So anyway, we appreciate you tuning in and listening. The other thing is, we always like to have professionals and other experts in areas come on with us to give us not only some things to think about, but points of view, and also people to reach out to talk to help us through our journey. So today we have some awesome guests, and Terry, I'm going to let you introduce them.
Yeah, today we would love to welcome Yadi Alamin and Joi Abraham from Charlotte Traditional Healing, formerly Charlotte Reflexology. And Yadi Alamin was severely ill in 2000. The medical drugs he was prescribed made him sicker, and he due to pain and emaciation, Yadi's mother recommended he get acupuncture, and he got more than that. He credits the acupuncturist for saving his life. He learned Eastern traditional healing arts and exercise and has been helping people since his recovery. Charlotte Traditional Healing opened in 2012 as Charlotte Reflexology and has grown since Joi Abraham trained to work in the clinic, and she is a clinician as well. So welcome both of you to the show. We are so excited to hear more about all of this. Very interested.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we are both interested in, we
Yeah.
kind of had some pre-show conversation that we been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now, but unfortunately with our, knowledge base, it's going to be difficult for us to ask good, intriguing questions. So we're going to try not to be an audience here. We're going to try to jump in and add something to the conversation. But, with that said, if you don't mind, Yadi, could you just kind of tell us a little bit more about what got you started, or, how that transformation looked?
Sure. I used to work in phlebotomy. I used to draw blood. I was a vampire. I was a medical porter as a really young guy, and I worked in pharmacy, in mail order pharmacy. So I had already worked in Western medicine, up until about 2000. So everything that I knew was Western medicine. My father's a chemical engineer. My mother's a teacher. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Illinois, grew up in Chicago. So I'm not from Asia. I didn't have any experience in anything outside of the norm. But I got very sick and ended up in the emergency room because my heart was beating too fast and I couldn't breathe. And I'd never really been sick in my life. I was a wrestler. I was a boxer. I did karate or whatever when the Karate Kid came out,
Right.
And that was about, I thought I was tough, but all of a sudden, my heart's beating too fast and I can't breathe. I called the ambulance, and now I'm clueless because now I'm a patient. I'd never been on that side. And they gave me Xanax and told me I had anxiety. And they were so quick to give me the drug, and I didn't know anything about the drug, so I just took it. And within 2 weeks, I had ended up in the ER 7 times.
Wow.
And by that time, it was the same diagnosis, but then eventually they said, well, we did an x-ray, $10,000. We did an x-ray, and we think you have ulcerative colitis. We want you to go see a GI specialist, blah, 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 go see him. They tell me, no, you don't have colitis, but I'm going to send you to a GP. I go to a GP, nothing. And finally, they sent me to an immunologist who told me I had idiopathic autoimmune hepatitis.
Yikes.
Wow.
Which in English,
Say that again.
in English means literally nothing. The idiopathic means they don't know why you have it. Autoimmune was a guess. and then hepatitis, hepato is liver, and then itis is inflammation. I didn't know this really. I was like 24 years old, and I believed everything they said, but I was losing weight quickly, and I went down to about 118 pounds, and you can tell like I'm skinny as is. Imagine me 40 pounds lighter.
Wow.
Gosh.
And at that point, they said, you're going to take these drugs, you're going to take interferons like you have hepatitis, or you're going to die. And I had been sick from the medication on top of being sick. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. Every symptom was magnified by a million. Like my heart would just pound. I would stand up, the room would spin. And I gave up. So for about a year, I did what people do. I went on, at the time it was Yahoo, not Google. I went on Yahoo and I'm like, yeah, what do you do to fix your body? And you don't know anything. How do you heal from disease? And you realize that the world is not built that way. And people are selling things for symptoms, and you're going to keep buying things as long as you have complaints. About a year later, I was suicidal, and I called my mother, who was down here in Charlotte. And I said, Mom, I want to die. And she said, well, don't do that. Go to an acupuncturist.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, and she really didn't know what she was saying, but it was kind of like, just don't kill yourself, you know? So I found a guy in a book who's a Chinese guy wearing a full, like the kung fu uniform you see in the old Shaw Brothers 70s movies, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, well, he can like me in the neck and I can die. It went much different. It went very different. He checked my pulse. He looked at my tongue. He told me liver, kidney, spleen, which I didn't know what he was talking about. His accent was very thick. Put me on the table for about 20 minutes, and he's doing these body manipulations, like pressing and rolling and grunting and putting his hands on the radiator. Chicago was cold, so he put his hands on the radiator, and he's and I'm like, whatever, you know, whatever you want to do is fine. The place smelled like fish. The fish market, this is Chinatown, so fish market's down the hall, sort of, and it's liniment and fish smell in there. I get up, and I gotta tell you, the first time in a year I could breathe. I didn't feel like I was gonna die, and I knew this man was helping me. So I just I borrowed money. I was a patient for about 8-9 months. Ran out of money to borrow and begged to be a student, and that's kind of what happened. I became a student, and eventually decided I didn't want to work in corporate America when I got well, because I think the whole thing was set up to keep people in that medical loop of owing money and being sick. And if you get close enough to dying, you just want to be honest with people. You don't have the energy to lie or put on airs or be somebody else. So the only honest thing that I could do would be help people who ask me for help. And I spent 7 years in Chinatown before I quit, because I was making $10 an hour. The business is a $500,000 a year, and I'm making $10 an hour. I went to go work for the dean of Pacific College Oriental Medicine. I worked as a TA with no degree in acupuncture. I was with him for about 5 years.
Wow.
And then I moved here and couldn't find anyone to work under, so I opened this clinic. That's where her story's.
Yeah, Joy, how about you? Let's hear about you. That's awesome.
Oh, wow. My side of the story, I could have never orchestrated this myself any better. I have always been interested in Asian medicine and health and healing, and I went through my own issues. But interestingly enough, I went to live in Japan for a few years. And that is where I had my first Asian medicine experience. I had heard about Asian medicine in America, but it was in Japan when I experienced it for myself. And I brought my health issues from America to Japan. And in Japan, they do not like for you to take time off. They want you to be at work.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
If you have a problem that prevents you from going to work, they want to know what it is. So, I would be sick every month. And they would ask me
on your cycle, right?
Yeah,
on
yeah.
your menstrual cycle.
They would ask me, what's the problem? And I said, I have these issues every month and I can't come in. And they said, well, would you like to see a doctor? And I said, yes, but I do not want to see a Western doctor. I'd rather see an herbalist. They took me to the herbalist and I explained my symptoms and they prescribed something called reishi mushroom. Everybody probably knows what that is by now in this country, but at the time I had never heard of it. And they gave me this hard, crusty mushroom, and I was supposed to make a tea out of this.
Was it red?
It was red, yeah, it was red. And I said, what do I do here? And they said, take a hammer, break it up, and make a tea.
Take a hammer?
And I said, well,
you'll have to back up because now I don't know what that is. So yeah, taking a hammer to break up a mushroom, that is a new concept for me.
Well, reishi mushroom is a hard woodland mushroom. So when it grows very hard.
Okay.
So when it's dried, it gets even harder. And it's very much like wood when it's harvested.
Okay.
To add to that, reishi in Chinese is called lingxi.
Yeah.
And ling means soul or spirit almost. So in Asia, for a long time, they believed in reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And they said if you were good in this life, you would reincarnate as reishi mushroom.
Interesting.
It's awesome. But it tasted bad. It tasted really bad.
It doesn't sound appetizing.
I'm sorry. I interrupted. So anyway, I kind of go back to that process. So you have it, you break it up with a hammer, and then I guess you put it in a cup and make tea out of it.
Yeah, you boil it, and then you make the tea and strain that off, and then drink it. And I was to do it twice a day, and it tasted bad, but I followed the directions, and it worked. It was the first time that anything natural for me had actually worked. I was able to go to work without any problems. And they noticed, they said, oh, Joy, you must be feeling a lot better. And I said, yeah.
How long did it take for it to start working for you?
About 2 months.
Okay.
It took about 2 cycles.
Okay.
So, doing that and doing it and being dedicated to it was difficult, especially when you didn't exactly know what it was going to do.
Right.
But I did trust the process, and I'm glad I did because I did see the results. So I continued to do that while I was there, and I was very happy with that method. So I stayed there for 3 years, and then I came back to America. And at the time, reishi, it was just starting to become known, but I wasn't able to find that kind of care here. So, my health deteriorated again. And it got to the point where I couldn't walk. And I was only 37 years old. Wow. And I was having hip arthritis. And that was very devastating, especially if you traveled and you've moved along everywhere and you walk really fast. You're reduced to walking in pain with a cane. So I knew there was something that I needed to do. I walked into the health food store because I wanted to find something to try to start the process, of naturally healing again. And I saw him. I'm a native of Charlotte, and he worked at the local health food store. And I'd never seen him before. I said, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I walk up to him and I say, do you have Chinese bitters? And he kind of pauses for a minute because he looked at me like kind of strange, like there was this question. And he said, no, what do you need it for? And, I told him all of my health issues and what I wanted to use them for. And this guy says, well, why don't you just do reishi mushroom?
Oh my God.
Wow. That's destiny.
Yeah, exactly. But I knew he knew what he was talking about. And 2, the second thing he said while we were talking was that he had been studying Chinese medicine for 15 years. And I thought to myself, how old is this guy? He doesn't look like he'd be able to study 15 years of anything. He looks so young. And we talked and found out we had a lot in common, especially about Asian medicine. And I knew that I had met the right person. So he invited me to QiGong class, which was great. I had never had QiGong before. I've been in movement and dance for all my life, and I had never done that. So I went to QiGong class, and I never stopped doing QiGong after that. And
so
then...
Could you explain to us Can you explain to us what Qigong is?
QiGong.
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 So Qigong, after China changed their politics, they created that word Qigong. Before that, it probably would have been called like Yangtze, or nourishing health, nourishing life, or Dao Yin, or the path within. It's kind of a generic word. It's almost like saying martial arts, or saying health exercises.
Okay.
Qigong can be a lot of things. It can be standing, can be breathing, can be very physical, or can be meditation. It could be Tai Chi, it could be many things. But yeah, it's a broad term.
Okay. I'm sorry, Joy. I didn't mean to interrupt you again, but that's a term that I'm just unfamiliar with, so it's good to.
It was a great question, especially to ask at that
In
time.
the 70s, like with Chinese, when you say words in English, that's called, or when you spell it out, it's called pinyin, right? And that's changed over the years. Like years ago, you could order Peking duck, right? Peking is now Beijing, right? So in the 70s, when Qigong came here, they spelled it Chikung, like Kung Fu, Qigong. But now they spell it with a Q, and the Q sounds like ch. So if you see QiGong, that's Qigong.
QiGong.
Okay.
Yeah. If that helps anybody, I'm
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Joy. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's no problem. I think we were getting to like how Qigong
The QiGong classes, yeah.
Qigong classes, yeah. And I remember one time after Qigong class, or actually I think we were hanging out one day, and
we're the same age.
Yeah, we are. I found out he was the same age.
So we, if you grew up in the same time period as somebody, all the things that you did are, similar.
Yeah.
Right.
So, music, clothes,
A lot of what
Movies,
we had in
yeah.
like I always tell people, like nowadays, like hip hop and rap music is big. It's huge, and it's mainstream. When we grew up in the 80s, it was not mainstream. Like you had dance music, rock, you had house, which was new, you had like disco, which died, you had pop music, but rap was not a big thing, Now everybody wants to rap, and some of the people who rap are over 40, 50 years old. And I always tell people, if you saw the space shuttle crash,
oh gosh,
you should stop rapping.
Right.
You're too old.
It's like
You're far too old.
that's like saving clothes, saving clothes that you think you'll fit into, it's going to come back around. Well, if it comes back around again, you're too old to wear it,
They've moved on by that point. So.
Yeah.
Trying to get something else.
Yeah. Like.
But
QiGong classes.
We were hanging out one night, and I had a flare of arthritis, and I couldn't walk. But I was trying not to show it to him because I didn't want him to worry about me not being able to walk. But of course, he likes to walk fast. He's from Chicago, so he's like, "Okay, what's wrong?" Yeah. And I told him, I have these pains in my hip joint. And he said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, So he said, "Okay." We get to this little space in the park, and he said, "Why don't we do this Qigong set?" He did not tell me it was an advanced set, and that we were going to be doing this for a full 20 minutes. And it's a summer night, and it's really hot outside. So I'm doing this advanced Qigong set. I have to hold my arms out. I have to control my breathing. I start sweating, and then I start feeling pain in my leg. And I'm looking at him like, "Oh, I hate this. Why do I have to do this?" And I asked him, "Can we stop now?" I said, "No, just keep doing it." He was very calm. Just do it for the whole 20 minutes. And the whole 20 minutes, I hated it. I hated him. I hated being there. And then finally, the 20 minutes was over. And I was so upset, but I got to walk. I went to walk. And there was no pain.
Wow.
At all. And I didn't believe that was actually true, so I tested it. I walked up hills. I ran down hills. I walked in circles because when I have hip arthritis, I would turn and I would try to shift quickly and my hip joint would not move because it was inflamed. But I didn't have that. And I could walk around in circles and it was pain-free. And it lasted for 3 whole days.
Wow.
No pain relievers, no medication for 3 days. And I was convinced that that was something that I needed to do continuously. That's how I got into the Qigong.
It's true.
It's true.
He was able to see me go from walking without a cane to being able to walk as fast as I want.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it did not take very long in order to see that change.
You guys know what a horse stance is? You've seen somebody stand in a horse stance where they're low in the stance and they'll have their arms up in some kind of position.
Right. I'm doing
it. Was
it.
like that. It was like that, only the arms were straight out.
Yes.
And the fingers were kind of bent like this, and then there were certain movements in between. So it's a martial arts kind of stance.
Yeah.
And it was 20 minutes.
Wow.
It was long enough. 20 minutes is long enough for the kidneys to filter every drop of blood in your body. So if you do something for 20 minutes straight, if it's walking or if it's deep breathing or whatever, if you're excited for 20 minutes, that's enough time to change the way your blood chemistry looks under a microscope.
Interesting.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
So, for people who want to learn anything, you want to learn yoga, you want to do walking, whatever it is, you want to learn Qigong, do it for 20 minutes. 20 minutes is probably a good cutoff, because after that, that's when you go into the negative return cycle. Like if you keep doing it after that, that's when you fatigue, that's when the pain comes. So it's good to do things in 20-minute cycles while you're a beginner,
Okay.
But yeah, that when Joy, you want to help somebody that's in pain, right? And we just met, and we, I don't know, it's hard to look young and attractive when you're limping. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's hard to be.
But she did it apparently.
I tried. I tried. But yeah, in the end, he could tell, because he's used to movements. He's into body movements and how the body moves. And as a dancer, I understood that. And, trying to hide that didn't work very long because then you start to see it in other parts of your body. So that's what he was seeing.
So now do y'all work mostly with people with, I would say, like a physical ailment, like a joint pain or something in that
Chronic
movement
conditions.
issue, or is it because I think of like the overeating and smoking, and I think of all those types of things as well.
Well, yeah, it is a good question.
Well, we see a lot of different kinds of issues. Not just
Asian medicine is holistic.
Yeah.
So if a person has a movement problem, joints are connected to your liver and your gallbladder. If you're smoking, there's usually an emotional reason why, and there's a physical reason why, and that's more holistic how we would deal with it. So there's the chemical part that you may be addicted to, like nicotine, but then there's the feeling you get when you take deep breaths and you take long exhales. A lot of times people smoke because they don't get a chance to just take a deep breath, and it's an excuse to let things go. So it's de-stressing.
Interesting concept.
My Japanese teacher would say the same thing. She really liked smoking because she could relax. Yeah. And I never understood that, but it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because that's something that it's something that has been pointed out for me in the past is the breathing part, and it's something I didn't even realize, but like I did some martial arts training, and my sensei would walk by me all the time and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Take a breath," because I would just, I guess, get so tensed up doing that. And then another time, it was a fun setting. We were out at a painting party where they have a lady instructor painting, and so she says get brush 1 and paint green, and so I was following her instructions, and she came by and tapped me on the shoulder and said the same thing, and this was all in the same time period, and she's like, "This is fun, you can take a breath, it's all right." And I thought how these other people could see that in me, but I could not see it in myself. And so I actually had a list of things to do every day over my desk, and one of them was to breathe. Just a reminder that take those deep breaths, because even if I'm not thinking about it, I feel short breaths. I don't feel like I ever and do that. But that's a good. I guess that's a good analogy for the smoking that I had never thought about, is people, having that big release and that big exhale.
Oh, yeah. I was a smoker.
Can we do something for fun?
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm glad you brought up breathing, because this is an exercise that works really well for people who experience anger, frustration. And it's just something you can do with breathing. You don't have to do any body movements.
Okay.
Let's make it as realistic as possible. Find something that makes you angry.
Yeah, my
It shouldn't
internet
be that
connection.
hard.
I don't have to look that far. I had some internet troubles this week, and I was going to throw my chair out the window, and Terry stopped me from doing that. It's like, God. Yeah.
So to be authentic, everyone, let's do this together. Find something that makes you upset and feel how your body responds to the feeling of being angry. So a lot of times you'll feel tension in the chest. Mm-hmm. The throat will get a little tight. You might even feel heat in the cheeks and under the eyes. Mm-hmm. Right. So I want you to remember how that felt when you thought of it. This is not hypnotism. This is just Qigong. We're going to take a breath in. And as you exhale, I want you to make a sound. The sound is shoo. Shoo. Next time you do it, I want you to inhale as if you're standing in front of a big green tree and you can see the green leaves. You inhale the fresh air from the tree and then exhale the sound. One more time. You're standing in front of a tree with bright green leaves. You inhale and then exhale. Okay, now go back to the thing that made you angry. Go back to what made you upset and think of it.
Okay.
And see what your body does this time.
Yeah, no reaction. Interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
So if I told you what was going to happen, then it's hypnotism, right? If I don't tell you, it's natural.
It's natural,
Yeah.
So the problem isn't that being angry isn't the problem. It's the problem that we hold on to anger and then we take anger with us like it's helpful to us. It's fine to be angry when you're angry, but to be angry when you're not even angry, that's resentment. And that becomes disease. That becomes where you hold on to tension or you waste all that energy.
Yeah, sometimes we're taught that a physical ailment may have started as an emotional issue first. And a lot of times when you start to heal the physical, the emotional is going to come up.
Interesting.
And you have to deal with both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great saying that I heard years ago. It was like that, being mad at somebody or holding on to some anger with somebody else, it's like drinking poison and hoping that somebody else dies.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
If you think about the word resent, it means sent twice, resent. And a lot of times when somebody has cancer or somebody has a disease that's rotting and festering inside them, they carry, even if they're the sweetest person to you, they carry that resentment, that anger, and it becomes a physical thing because now your body is constantly making that tension, constantly making that heat, and constantly breathing short, as you mentioned.
Interesting.
Just something I thought might help people.
No, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
let me just, this may be too deep to get into, but maybe we can touch on that. But what about the overeating? I mean, it's like me. Every emotion elicits eating. We talk about this all the time, and part of it is culture, growing up, and habits that, you come home from school or from work and something bad happened, and they're like, let's go let's go eat something. Let's go get an ice cream. It'll make you feel better. Or you come home like, hey, I just won first place and things are great. Awesome. Let's go get an ice cream to celebrate. It's like, you're sad, you're down, you get tense, stress, all of that. But anyway, I just love food, and I love food. It's a bad habit. It's like I do it unconsciously. Sometimes I'll be doing it and think, why am I even doing this? I should have thought about this before doing it. So any little helpful tips or tricks for that?
Well,
Yes.
the simple answer, why do we overeat? Or what does it mean outside of the chemicals that we like? Sugar makes you feel happy, obviously. We eat sugar. Um, in Oriental medicine, the stomach and the spleen organs are connected with elements of nature, as is the liver. Like the liver is representative of anger, and we connected with wood, the tree, that's the exercise. In terms of food, that's earth.
Yes.
So when things are out of control, what you want to do is have grounding and balance. You want to have stability. You want to be stable. So you eat things that make you more stable or make you feel more stable inside.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
So if you think about it, when the pandemic hit, what did people do? They went and bought out everything from the grocery store.
Right.
Toilet
Right?
paper.
Yeah.
Well, food.
Yeah,
Yeah. The comfort and safety that you get from food.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you're trying to create that comfort and safety from eating. Because that's usually what we go to first. And that's usually what, like you were saying, Roy, most of our special events are marked by that.
Right.
Because
right.
we know that as a way of comfort.
So
Yeah.
in clinic, the overeating is often seen as an excess of heat in the stomach, and the stomach is warm. I mean, in the West, we know we have stomach acid.
Mm-hmm.
In Asian medicine, they would call that stomach fire. But what will happen is you'll get too much. You'll have too much heat, and it doesn't mean you're digesting well. It doesn't mean you have a good metabolism. It just means the fire is burning, and you in clinic, there are things that we would do to kind of reduce the fire or disperse the fire, not to put it out because you have to eat.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with liking food. It's just moderation is key.
Yeah. Right.
My teacher would say moderation, everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the comfort issue, that's a good point because, something that I started years ago was that, kind of not eating, like right before bed. I'd be like, needing, wanting something, whatever. But then it got to be, I think it was that comfort feeling like if I wasn't full, then I didn't feel like I could go lay down. And so that is one thing that I have noticed is that, and the other thing too, I mean, like somebody who's big like me, I get a little hunger, twinge and like, oh my God, I got to stop and eat. And then, you think through this, like, I don't know that little hunger thing is probably going to kill me within the next 3 or 4 days. I can probably, wait 20 minutes or an hour to eat a meal instead of getting that snack. So, I know a lot of this is self-awareness and then trying to stop yourself before, taking that plunge.
And it does take time to be able to find something that you can use to stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
You don't replace something with nothing.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, we're going to get you to stop eating. Just stop.
Because then you go back to what you were doing before.
So a lot of times, so I'm just speaking from my own experience. Like my issue was anger. I'm a small guy. I'm 5'11", I'm 155 pounds, and I'm from the city of Michael Jordan. Like people are big in Chicago.
Right.
They're big like Texas too. And I had to fight a lot when I was growing up. And I had a chip on my shoulder, which, as we talked about, doesn't help you as you get older. It just becomes kind of like your problem. Now now you're just mad.
Right.
So I would notice that when somebody would say something or I would interact with somebody, I always had this feeling of tension. And when I started doing Qigong exercise, and it was a commitment, I used the same energy that I would use to be angry, to do whatever with my anger, to talk crazy about you, to go punch a punching bag, which I still do. But I would use that energy to go do Qigong. Now, I'm not saying Qigong is the thing. Sometimes it might be calligraphy, or it might be, what was the, like Demi Moore and Ghost, like you just go make pottery or something.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's you have to replace one thing that makes you feel good with something else that makes you feel good.
Interesting.
And you don't just keep eating out. Like that's like just like, okay, that makes you feel good. That's the one time you get to be free. No one's telling you where to be and what to do and how much money you're gonna make, but stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Terry and I were talking earlier, and I told her that I was a flight attendant. And I remember I would always, after a flight, go find Five Guys in Dulles International Airport because they had the best French fries. And I always wondered why I wanted to do that after a flight. And I realized that, you know, as a flight attendant, you encounter a lot of people. It's very fast paced and it's very high stress. And my stress would be through the roof. But there's certain things that you can't say and you can't do in front of people because you have to keep a certain appearance while you're on a plane.
Maintain.
But I would go and kill a bag of Five Guys French fries after the flight. And I started to realize that it was making me feel bad afterwards. And I was wondering, why am I always triggered to go do this afterwards?
Well, you're eating your anger.
That's what it
You're
was.
eating your frustration.
I was eating my frustration. So once I figured out that's what it was, I then had to start going through what I could do then, like right there, to de-stress so that I could perform my job, but also not depend on high carbs in order to make myself relax. So that is what that's what I had to do.
That's an
so
awesome.
I would find little things like, I'd find little things, breathing, maybe getting some nice water or something. Taking a walk actually really helped a lot. So if I had time in the terminal, I would take a few laps, and that would really help.
Yeah.
And that really made a huge difference for me.
Turtles, like,
Yeah. What?
What'd you say?
Yeah. I think that's an awesome idea. Because that's what I was thinking about is maybe doing some breathing, maybe just drinking water. Anyway, give me something because I have tried to replace that a little bit more, with getting to the gym instead of sitting around here, eating a popcorn or whatever, get out and go for a walk or, do something more productive.
And expressing your feelings at the right time to the right person is also important because you don't want to hold in what it is that you're feeling.
Okay.
And sometimes you need to find a way to tell whoever it is that you are experiencing this.
I'm hungry.
Oh.
One thing to do, because we mentioned that hunger a lot of times comes from heat, from that fire. A simple technique that they do. This comes from the Bigu, the QiGong fasting, and this is something you can do. Is very easy. Like you take a simple breath, and then exhale. Then click your teeth together about 36 times with the mouth closed. When you do it, you'll generate saliva, and you just swish the saliva around in the mouth and swallow the saliva, which not only lubricates the throat, but that feeling of being full sometimes diminishes. I'm not saying this is going to work every time we try it.
Right.
But sometimes that diminishes.
I was going to say, I felt that.
Oh, good.
You have all types of things in your saliva that are energetic, like immunoglobulins, things that your immune system needs, enzymes, even electrolytes are in your saliva. And your teeth are the extremity of your bones. So there's an electrical charge that's generated just from clicking the teeth. Just like there is when you make impact when you run.
Okay.
Yeah, this is so awesome because I've heard a long time about the, how much breathing is important. I think y'all reinforce that with these other little tips and tricks that we can do to help disperse some of the anger, anxiety, and, maybe think about replacing that, not the good healthy eating, but that snacky, type eating. So I know you guys need to get to an appointment. I know y'all got something that's coming up because we could actually probably talk to y'all for a couple more hours here. It's just so interesting. And, I'd love to have y'all back on the show to go off into this, some of these things a little bit more in depth. But we appreciate your time so very much. It's
Oh,
been such a
yeah.
pleasure meeting both of you and having this conversation.
You too as well.
We enjoyed it
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much.
It's fun.
Happy to take a little time and share. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. If you don't mind, before we let you go, first off, I'd like to ask both of y'all, what is something that you do every day, and it could be an app, a program, a habit, a ritual. What is something that you do every day that you couldn't do without that really adds a lot of value to your life?
Mm.
Mm.
Go for it.
Well, I have kids, and the great thing is to be able to send them a little good morning. My daughter's grown up. I just being able to communicate with family on social media is probably one of those things that like we didn't have before that I think it would be hard to live without.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'd like to spend some time, whether it's 5 minutes to 30 minutes, in silence. No cell phone, no computer. I wake up before everybody else so that I can have that mental space where I have quiet.
Yeah.
And it sets me up for the day. Because both of us are in a situation where we have a lot of people come and they ask us a lot of questions and they're asking us to help them. And then we deal with people outside, like our families then need help. And then you just need that time where you can get centered and get still.
Yeah.
And if I don't do that, it's not a good day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I hear
So
you.
if one of y'all would tell us, so how can people, well, first off, who is your client, what you can do for them, and then how people can reach out and get a hold of you?
Yeah.
Well, if you're in Charlotte or if you're in the Carolinas, you're welcome to come to the clinic. We're close to the border of South Carolina in South Park, Charlotte. We have Charlotte Traditional Healing, located about, 5 blocks away from South Park Mall. The only mall with a valet that I've seen. Also, you can go to charlottetraditionalhealing.com. Or you can go to QiGong, QiGong, saved, SAVED.me, if you're interested in learning a full set of exercises. And we have telehealth. We're really big into other things, which we haven't mentioned, but this is this is how you get a hold of, or call Joy.
Okay.
Don't send me a message like, hey man, I got Lyme disease, help me. Like I get those at 3 a.m.
We help people all over the country, and depending on the time, we can help people in different countries.
Worldwide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, again, thank you both so much. We appreciate it. That's going to do it for another episode of Feeding Fatty. Of course, you can find us at www.feedingfatty.com. This interview, the audio and the video will both go up live. It'll probably be 3 to 4 weeks. We'll get that up. Also find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the video will also be on our YouTube channel. You can find the podcast on all the major platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and probably a dozen more. So reach out, give us a listen, be sure and share. Sharing is caring. So share this with all of your friends, get them involved. We would love it. Visit us on our Facebook group. We'd love to start a discussion with, with our listeners and see what we can do. If you're a professional that can help people with wellness and well-being, or if you have a great story, we're always looking for those. So reach out to either me or Terry. We'd love to get you on a future episode. So until then, take care of yourself and take care of your family. This is Roy.
This is Terry. Yadi and Joy, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and expertise and sharing all of this.
Thank you so much for having us.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Have a great